The repeated crises in American education demand a bit of a different approach. I am describing here how adult education is a significantly underutilized arena that holds some potential answers to these crises. Thankfully, California has an ideal educational consortium structure in place already to take adult education to another level, one that mandates better partnering between community colleges, school districts and adult ed schools. It just makes sense that working with so many adults who have fallen through the cracks will help all of us better serve younger students and fill in some of those proverbial cracks. This is to everyone's benefit. CCs stand to grow their enrollment numbers, perhaps significantly, something they very much need. School districts get a new and holistic approach to a historically stubborn achievement gap. And adult ed schools and teachers get added stability, something they definitely need. Best of all, the state of California is willing to pay for this. Everyone wins. So the easiest and best way to do this immediately would be for CCs and school districts to offer a shared communications class and also basic math. And I link these specifically because math, the subject most frequently described as in crisis, needs to be rethought as a communications problem, not just a math problem. I've stated it before and can state again, it makes sense that math, the most objective subject, requires the most empathy between teacher and student. Math teachers especially have to create a safe space for students to try, and also have to nearly literally see inside their student's brain to see what they are trying to do with the numbers. Even the student can't always explain that. This requires trust and is very much akin to how medical schools realized they had to teach doctors that bedside manner was vitally important, that patient outcomes depended on it. So it is with math teachers as well. The relationship is crucial. For the communications class itself, too, I'd like to recommend specific content and sequencing. This basic structure can be offered in either 8-week or 16-week systems, either a quarter or a semester. Units would include but are not limited to 1. Intro, the basics of how communication impacts all of us and how communication is fundamentally shared far more than we like to acknowledge. And how communication actually often gets harder and more complex the better you know someone. All this includes different types of communication and listening skills, etc. 2. Communication styles and approaches, whether more blunt or more passive. The key then is knowing how to recognize both, learning to harness both styles and avoiding trouble by being too blunt or too passive. All in the name of achieving clarity. 3. With that in mind, dealing with change. Exploring how to handle growth and change in our communication skills. If we are not growing, we are stagnating, by definition. Communication is something that all of us can work on and change for the rest of our lives, and professionalism requires we continually refine this. 4. The basics of teamwork. We Americans tend to obsess over leadership a little too much. Not everyone wants to be the leader. But everyone needs to understand how teamwork functions, and leadership is a big part of that obviously. There are different styles of leadership and techniques, and basic leadership requires fluency in all of them, employing all of them at varying times. We can especially dig into this discussing parenting, coaching, teaching and bosses we've all had. 5. The very real power of narrative and learning to tell your own story. Every adult school has a poster on the walls encouraging students to write their own story. I'd like to dig in and teach them some specifics about this. There are helpful universals in story structure and patterning that can apply to anyone. All the world's a stage after all. 6. The rule of threes. The rule of threes are everywhere and are crucial to both the patterning we see in stories but also in any good communication effort. 7. All of this then relates to better critical thinking and creative problem-solving skills. There are specific ways that this sequence of lessons makes all of this make sense. Critical thinking and creative problem-solving can be improved dramatically. Often sequencing is the actual answer, the idea being we often have everything we need, we just have to make better use of it. This is resourcefulness. 8. Public speaking. Not everyone wants to do it, but everyone needs to be able to at least handle a small room. It's vital, really. Overcoming this fear is overcoming a lot of fears. 9. Communication and technology. Not just knowing the technology but also how to handle your online presence so as not to cost yourself. Also leveraging technology beyond pushing keys and developing your career. 10. Developing a brief presentation on how you want to write your story. 11. Delivering that presentation, including a plan on implementation and, importantly, handling a brief Q&A after. This sequence of lessons aligns perfectly with the stated learning outcomes desired by most every adult school in California. Teaching to it more directly, again, will reap immense rewards. And then the trickle down to the young people around them is also very much of interest. And so, once again, implementing a program like this will help CCs with enrollment issues, potentially significantly, if we do this right. School districts get a new and holistic approach to the stubbornness of the achievement gap. Helping their families is going to help struggling young students. And adult ed schools get much needed increased stability. All of these things work together. The whole village benefits. And the state is willing to pay for it. Let's discuss further.